What's going on, everybody? Today I will be giving my way too early 2024 predictions for the ACC. The ACC will oddly have 17 teams next year, and we got two California teams joining the conference, and we also have SMU joining the conference, and they're a team from the state of Texas. But it's going to be insane to see a team like California travel across the world to play a team from Pennsylvania like Pitt. The matchups we will have between these ACC teams are going to be really interesting to see, and I can't wait. But today I wanted to rank these 17 teams from worst to best. But before I do get into ranking these teams, let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you will love this channel because we upload daily college football content. So definitely consider subscribing. But without further ado, let's get into ranking these ACC teams. And before I start, I just wanted to say my rankings will probably be a lot different than other people's rankings because I have some interesting opinions on some of these teams. But anyways, let's start off at the bottom, and I have Wake Forest at 17. I probably have Wake Forest lower than most people would have them, but I think the teams above them will be better going forward. Wake Forest is losing key guys in the secondary, and they're coming off a 4-8 season, in a season where they finished near the bottom in points per game on offense and points per game on defense. They haven't really done anything in the transfer portal that would really help them out. And they lost Jamal Banks, who was their leading receiver this past season, and I expect this team to be pretty bad in general. And at number 16, I have Stanford. This team has a lot of concerns, and I do expect them to be pretty bad, but they do have some offensive guys returning despite losing one of their key players, tight end Benjamin Urasek. I don't know if I pronounced that last name right, but anyways, they did lose a really solid tight end, but they also did decent in recruiting, and maybe that helps them out a little bit, but it's going to be a tough first year in the ACC. And they have a long way to go before they can be good again. But I do think they will be better than Wake Forest, and it's probably going to be a lot easier competition in the ACC than it was in the Pac-12. So maybe Stanford finishes higher, but I expect them to be pretty bad in 2024. And at number 15, I have Pitt. This team I'm still a little unsure about, and they could finish higher, but Pitt has a lot to figure out on offense, and they also lost a lot of key players on defense. But on the other hand, they have most of their offensive guys returning, and they brought in some defensive players who could play an impact. So maybe they evened out in what they are losing and what they're gaining, but personally I can't rank them higher. Their offense was just too much of a concern this past season. So this may be a bad prediction, and I'm here to admit that, but I really do think the team I have above them will be better, and I have Virginia at 14. I really think this team was a bit underrated despite their terrible record last season. Yes, they were way too inconsistent, and they were all around a pretty bad team, but they did pick up a couple decent wins against North Carolina and Duke, and they were a lot more competitive in 2023 than they were in 2022. And they played in many closer games last season, but they also picked up some really solid offensive players in the transfer portal. This is bold of me to put Virginia higher, and maybe it isn't realistic, but I just have a feeling this team will be a little bit better, and I have them being better than Pitt. They won't be good, but they will be better than the worst team in the ACC, and they will be better than they were last year. And I like this talent this team is returning, so we'll see what they can do. But at number 13, I have Boston College, and maybe I have them too low, but I don't expect to see a lot of improvement from this team in 2024. And I expect them to be average, and I don't think they will be better than the teams above them. But I will say maybe they could be better with their quarterback returning. But like I said, I expect them to be average. But at number 12, I have Syracuse. I don't expect anything crazy from Syracuse, but I do think they could be better with bringing in quarterback Kyle McCord, who isn't great, but he's solid. And he should help out a team like Syracuse, who was pretty bad last season. And they have a top 4 transfer portal class in the ACC as well. They also brought in a really good edge rusher from Texas A&M. They have some key guys returning in 2024, so watch out for Syracuse, that's all I'm saying. But at number 11, I have Duke, and I get why some people may think they will completely fall off, and you may possibly have them lower, because they are losing a bunch of talent and they lost their head coach Mike Elko, but they also brought in Malik Murphy, who should be a solid addition at quarterback, and we could see him shock some people with his skills, because he didn't do that bad in the little time he played starting for Texas when Quinn Ewers got hurt. And realistically, I don't think you can drop Duke that far, despite everything that they are losing. They won't be good, but they will be okay in my opinion. And number 11 seems like a good spot for Duke in 2024. But at number 10, I have North Carolina. And this is another ranking other people might not agree with, but like I said, my rankings will probably be different than others. But they are another team that has done decent at replacing guys they lost. They lost Drake May to the NFL draft, but they brought in quarterback Max Johnson from Texas A&M, who I think can be decent. They brought in a really solid tight end also from Texas A&M and Jake Johnson. But I think losing Drake May will really hurt them next year, and their defense will probably not be great again, and I think the teams above them will be better. And for number 9, I have California. This team had a very solid offense in 2023, and they're kind of similar to North Carolina, where they both have good offenses, but pretty average defenses. but California has done a better job at utilizing the transfer portal, and I think they are a dark horse in the ACC. They have one of the more underrated running backs in the country, Jaden Ott, returning. They also brought in many solid 4-star receivers from the transfer portal. They brought in 2 4-star defensive players as well. I would name every player, but I have a lot of teams to rank in this video. But if you guys want to, go to 24/7 Sports and look at what California has done in the transfer portal. They're doing a really good job, and I think they are a legitimate dark horse in the ACC. But I realistically can't rank them any higher, and I think 9 is perfect for them. But I will be doing these rankings again in the preseason, so we'll see if anything changes after I look at all the schedules. But at number 8, I have SMU, and it's really hard to rank the last couple teams, but I think the upside with SMU is their defense, and their defense should be better than California and North Carolina's defense, because SMU only allowed 17 points a game in 2023, but they also have a really good offense, and they are returning quarterback Preston Stone. A lot of people are high on this SMU team, and it makes sense, because they were really good in 2023, and they have a lot of positives going forward for them. And they've also done a really good job utilizing the transfer portal, and all the players they brought in are from Power 4 schools and teams like Georgia, Oregon, and Ohio State. I wouldn't say they did a super good job on the transfer portal like some of the teams in the ACC above them, but they should be better than the other newcomers in the ACC, Stanford and Cal. But it will be very interesting to see California play SMU, and it should be a close game and a competitive game. At number 7, I have Georgia Tech. They are another team with a really good offense, but a pretty average defense. But they really had a good finish to their season, and they were a streaky team in 2023. But if they played their best football, they were really hard to beat, and I expect Georgia Tech to be legit in 2023. They have a really good quarterback returning in Haynes King. They also have a revamped staff, and I like the head coach this team has going forward. Georgia Tech has a lot of upside going into next year, and I expect the defense to be a bit better with the changes that they've made in the coaching staff. But it will be interesting to see because they could be worse than SMU, Cal, and even North Carolina. But I really like the finish this team had to the season, and I like the coaching staff a lot, and a good coaching staff can make a difference, and that's why I think they will finish 7th above the teams below them. But at number 6, I have Virginia Tech, and they had an incredible finish to the season. They haven't made any big offseason additions yet, and they didn't have a great recruiting class, but they went 5-2 in their last 7 games, and 3 of their team's losses this season only came by 1 possession. They have a bunch of talent returning next year, and they will be decent on offense, but also they will be decent on defense as well. And I think they will really make a difference, and they have a decent dual-threat quarterback, Kyron Jones, returning. And they're returning almost all of their team, and they will be really good. But they also finished their season dominating Tulane, and this was a really good win for this Virginia Tech program going forward. But at number 5, I have Louisville, and I know some people might have them higher with how much success that they've had in the transfer portal, and also the fact that they made the ACC championship game this past season. They brought in a new quarterback, Tyler Shaw. He could be solid, but there's still a concern because Tyler Shaw has dealt with injuries and he can never stay healthy. I don't want to hate on this Louisville team, that's not what I'm trying to do, but I personally think they got a little bit lucky with their schedule last season. And I don't actually think that they were the second best team in the ACC at the end of the season, despite making the ACC championship. They avoided Clemson and Florida State in their regular season. They played an injured Duke team, and they played NC State at the start of the season before NC State got everything going for them. And NC State honestly would have most likely beaten Louisville near the end of the season if they played. But that's just my opinion. They had a very favorable schedule in 2023, and they lost to Kentucky at the end of the season. So I think they were a bit overrated. Look, I haven't looked at the schedules for 2024, but I will be doing these predictions again in the preseason after I look at all the schedules. And by the way, I will be starting my schedule predictions at the start of February. So it's way too early to be doing these predictions, but for now I can only put Louisville at 5. But this could change. But I will say I like what they have done in the transfer portal, and they still will be solid. They have gotten 26 commits from the transfer portal, and they picked up a very solid running back and a really good receiver from Alabama. I don't necessarily think Louisville will be worse, but I think the teams above them will be better. And at number 4, I have Miami. I know some people think that I know absolutely nothing about Miami football after I made that Cam Ward transfer portal video, and in that video I kind of mentioned that Miami wasn't on the level of Ohio State, Oregon, or any of the other top schools, and I did kind of bash the coaching staff of Miami, and some Miami fans took it way too personally, and they said I know nothing about Miami football, but what I do know is that they continue to get amazing talent from recruiting classes, but they still manage to be average at best, and you can't ignore that. But before you freak out and say I'm a Miami hater, I'm telling you right now, I think it's long overdue for this team to finally win 9 or 10 games. They picked up the best recruiting class in the ACC for the second year in a row and have one of the best recruiting classes in the country for the second year in a row. But on top of all of this, they brought in probably the second best quarterback in the whole transfer portal, who is Cam Ward. and he's a guy that could really be dangerous if he has the right system and the right team to work with. And I expect Miami to finally figure their stuff out and win more than 7 games, and they will not lose to Rutgers at the end of the season. And I think they will compete near the top of the ACC, and they have all the talent. And if they have another mediocre season, then in that case I wouldn't be surprised if Mario Cristobal would be in the hot seat. But next up at number 3, I have NC State. I think this team could honestly win the ACC. They have a decent recruiting class and a decent transfer portal class, and they brought in a quarterback, Grayson McCall, who could definitely play a factor. They only brought in 11 players from the transfer portal, but they picked up so many high-rated players. They brought in a 4-star receiver, Noah Rogers from Ohio State, 4-star running back from Duke, 4-star tight end from UConn, and of course Grayson McCall, who was also a 4-star. There's so much talent this team is bringing in, and they had an incredible finish to this past season. But they did lose All-American linebacker Peyton Wilson, so that's going to be a tough loss. But I think their defense should be fine, and all around they will be good. But at number 2, I have Clemson. And before, I actually had Clemson winning the ACC, but I don't think they will win the conference anymore. They haven't brought in anybody from the transfer portal, and Dabo Swinney for some reason refuses to bring in players from the transfer portal. But I really do like the defense this team has, and defense wins championships. And I think it will keep them as a legit contender for the 12-team playoffs, and also the ACC championship. They had a very good finish to the season, and they are also returning a lot, including quarterback Cade Klubnik. And I expect Clemson to come out better next season and, not lose 28-7 to start this season. Clemson has still been consistently good over the years, despite all the criticism Dabo Swinney gets, and I think Clemson will prove why they are still one of the best teams over the last decade of college football. But at number 1, I have Florida State. 2 weeks ago, I was thinking Florida State was losing way too much talent, but the more I reconsider, I have to admit, Mike Norvell is one of the best coaches in college football, and they have brought in the 3rd best transfer portal class, and they brought in 10 4-stars and a new quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei, who could be better than people think. DJ Uiagalelei might not be elite, but he's decent, and I think he gets the job done with the system and the team he has to work with at Florida State, and he could throw the ball deep, but he could also work under center if they need him to. Florida State has picked up 5 guys from Alabama, and they picked up running back Rodell Williams, who could be one of the best players on this team. But despite this team losing a lot, I think they will be on a mission next year, and they are replacing a lot of talent, and they will be completely fine in my opinion, and I have them winning the ACC and making the 12-team playoffs with the first round bye. But anyways, that's going to do it for the video. Be sure to leave a like and also subscribe to the channel. But don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you will love this channel, because we upload daily college football content, and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing. But that's going to do it, guys, and peace out.